Until then, the classical style, that smooth, elegant, tasteful, beautiful melody-dominated style, a style exemplified by the music of Haydn, Mozart, and the young Beethoven, what we today call the classical style, evolved as a result of an 18th century social revolution that we call the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment was that great revolution of the individual, but almost better to call it an evolution of the individual, because like all of these social evolutions, it took place across the span of multiple generations. Between about 1730 and 1780, we see the machine of social culture change in Europe. It was a period that saw the institutions of Europe, religious, political, social, educational, industrial, economic, and artistic. Slowly but surely, these institutions adjusted their focus downward from the high clergy and the aristocracy to a newly emerging class of people. For better or for worse, we call this class the middle class, which had risen in great numbers due to the new European mercantilism, trade, and the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution. Now, the essential tenet of the Enlightenment, at least for our purposes, which recognizes, by the way, as it must, the validity and growing importance of this wonderful and massive new class of people, the essential tenet of the Enlightenment was what we call humanism. That concept that all people are individuals and all individuals are important. Now, note well two things. First of all, this is a lovely philosophical ideal, not one that was necessarily a practiced or pragmatic one. We know that even someone as magnificent and as enlightened as Thomas Jefferson owned slaves. So we've got to understand the philosophical background to an ideal that is not actually acted upon for many, many years after it is first envisaged. The second point I would wish to make is that this humanist concept was felt not just by this new and rising middle class as its self-importance and self-image improved, it was something that was felt also by the aristocratic classes as well. Look, believe me, without the cooperation of the monarchies and the aristocrats, those enlightened leaders of the time, many of the demands placed by the middle class on their respective societies would not have been met, as they generally or grudgingly were, in the years before 1789. I'm specific about that date. 1789 in France is the year when the Enlightenment merde hits the fan. After 1789, bets are off. But before then, we definitely see the leaders in various societies freeing up to a great degree those institutions which up to that point had been for the upper classes, but certainly not intended for the middle class. Now, what does this new and growing middle class want? What are the institutions that do change? Well, first and foremost, they want to be educated. And it's during the Enlightenment that the concept of universal education evolves. They want political power, self-determination, and indeed we know as of 1776 in the United States, but for European history more importantly 1789 in France, the age of revolutions begins. This new middle class wants religious and social justice and an end to injustice. The concept develops that that institution that does the greatest good for the greatest number is a good institution. Philosophically, there's an increasing faith in reason and common sense. The middle class wants quality of life, comfort, and upwards mobility. The quality of life on earth becomes as important as the quality of afterlife traditionally promised by religions. This new middle class wants what the founding dads called the pursuit of happiness, what we would prefer to call the pursuit of entertainment. They want to do something that pleases them and fills their growing leisure time. And of course, it's music that becomes the essential leisure time consumable entertainment for this new and growing class of people. Now, for the enlightened listener, whether it's one of these new middle-class amateurs or an aristocrat, for the enlightened listener, the music of the Baroque, that era that precedes the classical era, an era epitomized by the music of Johann Sebastian Bach, the Baroque was perceived by our new enlightened listener as a period that produced hopeless.
To keep listening to this audiobook for free, click the link in the description. It will take you to a free Audible trial where you can listen to this and many other books for free for 30 days.